You ever walk into a place thinking it's just another night, and walk out realizing you might never look at the world the same way again? That's where this story starts, right in the middle of a Friday evening at the Bellamy Room, with a kid whose feet just don't listen, and a waitress who decided maybe the bravest thing in the world is letting someone else lead, even if they barely know how to walk across the floor. Yeah, that happened. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for how this one ends, because it's not about perfect rhythm or big moves. It's about finding the guts to step out when you've always been told to stay seated. So here's the scene. Bellamy Room is the kind of restaurant where the jazz trio floats through the air and you feel like you're in a little bubble, safe from the rest of the world. On weekends, couples slow dance in the sliver of space between tables, and every so often, you see someone just brave enough to take that first step, even if they're terrified someone's watching. That night, at a tucked-away booth, you've got Jamie Voss, 8 years old, tiny, hunched over, with legs that just refuse to cooperate. Ever since he was a toddler, diagnosed with something called donia, it's like his body is always fighting him. And after one rough fall at Children's Museum, he learned pretty quick that people notice sometimes with laughter that cuts sharper than they probably meant. Across from him is his dad, Harlan Voss. Picture a guy who's built half the skyline, but can't quite figure out how to build a bridge to his own kid. They don't go out much, but Harlan's got his reasons: privacy, safety, making sure Jamie's never exposed, never embarrassed, never at risk. He thinks that's what love looks like. And maybe sometimes it is. But Jamie? He's not watching his dad, or even his plate. He's watching Clara the waitress gliding around the tables, hair in a messy bun, moving with that dancer's grace you can't fake. Clara used to dance under real lights, with her name in bold on the program, until a rehearsal accident benched her for good. So now she waits tables, and you'd never know the music's still in her except for how she moves when she thinks nobody's looking. Jamie's eyes drop to her shoes, and, out of nowhere, he just whispers, "Do you still dance?" Clara's caught off guard. Nobody's asked her that in forever. She kneels so they're eye to eye and just says, "Only when someone dares to lead." You could almost hear the universe pause right there. Jamie doesn't think. He just stands up, trembling, every muscle at war with itself, and stretches out his hand to her. No big scene, no announcement, just a quiet affirdo. "You trust me enough to take this step?" Clara hesitates for a heartbeat, then sets down her tray, wipes her hands, and places her palm in his. For a moment, the whole room forgets to breathe. Jamie leads, if you can call it that. His feet drag, knees buckle, but he keeps going, and Clara? She just matches him, step for unsteady step, no corrections, no hidden agenda. You know what I mean? She lets his rhythm become her rhythm, like the music's just an afterthought. The room shifts, people stop mid-sentence, forks freeze, and even the pianist lets the tune trail off into the background. He stumbles once, twice. There's a little laugh from somewhere, nervous, maybe even a little mean, but Clara gives Jamie the smallest smile, just enough to say, "I'm not leaving." She keeps her hand in his, absorbs every awkward step, makes him believe he's the one calling the shots. Around them, people are watching, but not with pity anymore. More like awe. A few kids at another table are whispering to their parents, but not about how weird the boy looks, about how the waitress holds his hand like it's something precious. Jamie manages a few steps, then looks up at Clara, almost afraid to ask if he's doing it wrong. She leans down and says, "It's perfect." Not out of kindness, but because for real it is. He's not dancing for anyone but himself, and every uncertain step is a little revolution. When Jamie's dad comes back from a phone call, the sight almost knocks him over. His son-in-law's always been so careful, so guarded, standing in front of the whole restaurant, moving. Not just moving, but leading, and beside him, that waitress is following, not guiding. Harlan's first instinct is to rush in, to save Jamie from humiliation, but for the first time, he holds back. Because nobody's laughing now. The room is silent, like everyone's holding their breath, waiting for the next step. Jamie hesitates, looks for Clara's reassurance, and she whispers, "Keep going. I'm still here." That tiny bit of faith unlocks something in Harlan, watching his son take a step, then another, not flawlessly but fearlessly. And for the first time, Harlan realizes he's the one standing still. The world's changed, just like that. On the drive home, nobody talks about the dance, the room full of strangers, or the fact that Jamie took the lead. But back in the driveway, Jamie breaks the silence. "I don't think I need you to hold my hand so much anymore," he says, voice barely above a whisper. Harlan tries to ask what he means, and Jamie just shrugs. "I can still fall, but I think I can lead too, if someone lets me." It's not a rebellion, just a truth that lands quietly between them. Harlan admits he's always tried to keep Jamie safe, but Jamie, still looking out the window, says sometimes when you hold too tight, it makes it harder to move. The next day, Harlan can't get the moment out of his head, so he goes back to the Bellamy room. Claire is there, wiping glasses, and he walks up. All business at first, but he can't help asking, "Weren't you afraid he'd fall? That people would laugh?" Clara just meets his gaze and says, "No, I was afraid nobody would follow him." Because that's the risk, right? Not failure, but loneliness. She says people like Jamie are always being guided, pulled, corrected, and sometimes what they need is someone willing to follow their uncertain steps. Later, Harlan finds himself at the local community dance studio, watching Clara coach a room full of kids whose bodies don't move the way they want. She doesn't pity them, doesn't rush in to catch them when they stumble. She lets them finish the move, lets them find their own balance. When Harlan tells her he needs someone to teach him not how to lead, but how to stop holding Jamie back, she takes his hand and says, "Then start by stepping where he steps. Not where you think he should go." Time passes, and at the spring festival, Jamie's slated to be the last performer, not because he's the showstopper, but because Clara knows sometimes you save the most honest things for the end. Jamie steps on stage alone. No music, no choreography, just him. At first, nothing happens. Then one by one, people in the audience stand up and begin to move, with him, a woman in the aisle, a man in a wheelchair, a teenage girl. Jamie doesn't even see them. He just keeps moving, leading without even knowing it. Backstage, Harlan asks Clara, "What is he doing?" And she replies, "He's not dancing. He's leading." It hits Harlan, the boy who never wanted the spotlight has somehow shifted the whole room, not with talent or flash, but with courage. Nobody claps. There's no big finish, but there's this sense that something fundamental just changed. So what's the point? Maybe leadership isn't about being the strongest or the most confident. Maybe it's about taking the first step, no matter how shaky, and trusting that someone will follow. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do for someone you love is let them find their own way, even if it means following their lead. If you've ever doubted your own ability to lead or thought your steps were too uncertain, remember Jamie. And remember Clara. And remember that every revolution starts with someone willing to move when everyone else is standing still. Now, you tell me, when was the last time you let go of control or followed someone who didn't have it all figured out? Share your thoughts below. Was Harlan right to finally step back? Was Clara brave or reckless? What does it really mean to lead or to follow? Let's talk about it.